Hello, and welcome to the Divine Darkness podcast, where we are going to walk towards the light together, bringing in more awareness, opening our abilities, and discussing all different realms of spirituality. Take a seat, open your heart, and get ready for this energetic shift to happen. Welcome. So today we're here with Jaclyn, and she is a psychic medium, a spiritual life coach who has spent most of her years helping heal attachment patterns, transform their relationships, and step into their power. After a profound awakening where she heard a clear inner voice say, "You are a medium," Jaclyn embraced her calling to connect people with their loved ones in spirit. Her readings bring through specific details and heartfelt messages, offering comfort, closure, and the reassurance that love never dies. I love that so much. So welcome. If you would like to, I'm curious more on how you heard this and what your experience was like, because I'm always fascinated with how we kind of realize that moment of like, this is something deeper, and what is this for me, and how does that make sense? So if you would like to share.
Yeah, so my awakening was definitely an experience that caught me off guard and out of the blue. I have always been into um, thinking there's more to life, more to reality, our consciousness, learning. So that's always been an interest of mine. But one night on, I think it was Christmas break, I was just watching this Netflix show, and it was about near-death experiences and mediumship, which was something that was ordinary. Like I had watched many of these shows. So I'm just, enjoying it. And as they're talking, as I'm sitting on the couch and I'm watching with my husband, I just hear this voice and it's in my mind, but it's like, you're supposed to be doing this. You're a medium. And I like instantly was like, what? Like, no, like I'm not, I wasn't born that way. I can't do that. Like all of this self-doubt and negative thoughts. And I kind of internally thought I was like going crazy in a sense. Like, why would you think this? But it was such a deep, like, awakening. It was such a deep knowing, something I had never really experienced before that I couldn't turn it off. Like, it was undeniable. So I think it took me a little while to even like share that with my husband because I've been doing life coaching. I am mom, like nothing super spiritual. I've been into spiritual stuff, but nothing to that level. So eventually I told him, and he's like, "You're crazy. Like, no, he literally told me you have to be born that way. Like, no." But I couldn't turn it off. So from there, I dove into everything. I dove into all the books and books on mediumship and spirituality. And then I started taking online courses and learning about it and just learning about all spirituality, but with this heavy focus on mediumship. And at this point, for perspective, like I was into these shows, but I wasn't 100% like a believer. So, not that I wasn't open to the possibility. So, for me, my plan was first of all, prove that mediumship is real. And second of all, see if I can even do it. And so that was my whole like goal I set off towards. And through the books I learned and through watching TV and other mediums and just all the knowledge I accumulated, I proved to myself, like, okay, this is real. Like, this is undeniable. This is real. But it was still this huge, um, I guess, anxiety or unknown, you could say, of like, can I do it? And it wasn't an easy journey at this point because it was something I didn't share with anybody but my husband. And at the time, he wasn't supportive just because he was really fearful that if I came out as a psychic medium, that like, our friends would abandon us or people would judge me. Like he had a lot of fear around me coming out. So it was something I did like on my own a lot, but I just didn't stop. I was so persistent. And it was because I couldn't, because it was such a deep knowing. So, and I just loved it. It was like something just turned on and just awakened. So then I did courses and got into an evidential course and learned how to make the link and just got mentorship and just went on from there of mediumship until now where I'm actually, doing it for the public and, I'm still learning as I go, as I feel like we always are. But that's kind of how the whole awakening started.
I love that so much because it's so definitely unique, right? Like so customized and unique. My question would be to you, did you or have you received since you've awakened with close loved ones? How did that look after you realized that and have you ever had a mediumship read prior to even knowing that you were a medium, would be my question.
Yeah. No, I had never had a mediumship reading. So that was kind of fun when I went and started with mentors, with mediums that were really experienced, as not only was I learning, but then I could connect through them with my departed loved ones. And then I learned that I could use my departed loved ones to help me with my mediumship. So that honestly has been one of the most beautiful journeys and parts, is because some of my grandparents or family members I wasn't as close to in life, I feel even closer to now in death. So
So
I
I'm
will,
asking you this because
yeah.
my question too was leaning to, did you know that your ancestors were, right? Like that was what my initial question was. And it kind of answered when you said that, because your ancestors clearly down that lineage were. And I think that being that they're helping you now in this moment is pretty awesome. Like that's beautiful because then you have this sense of like trust even more within yourself because these are your connection of your lineage, your family. So one, I have so many questions, so I'm going to ask one. I'm going to ask another one. I'm like Ashley, but how did you or how do you use discernment? Because that was something that I think was huge for most people, because it sounds like you had this thing that just clicked and you just went fledged, full fledged. How was it for your discernment when you were doing that and opening that?
So I feel personally, I didn't have a lot of, I didn't have any negative experiences. So the way I just learned to connect was a lot of through intention. And so I think for discernment, a lot of my process is kind of just having my intention set of what I will accept in and will not accept in. And it's always, of the highest good, of love, light, and truth. And that's just kind of the area I play in and focus, and I don't focus on anything else. So when that's my intention for setting to any spirit, but with intentions for who I bring through. When it's my own family members and I connect, I just have the intention to connect with them, and generally I will feel that or see that, and there will be like a knowing. And then when I do readings for others, it's normally opening up, and I will generally personally open up and allow who I feel, whoever comes through, to come through for them, but it's always of like the highest and best. And then from there, if it's not the person they want, we'll try to go direct and connect with them. So that's normally how I guess, encapsulate my discernment, is through mainly just intentions and just focusing where I want to work.
Yeah, and it sounds like too, you have trust, trust with your intuition, right? Like that
Yeah.
sounds like the key element is just trusting your intuition. So how did your intuition look for you first? Or how does your intuition come through? I know that you told me, but if you want to share of how that worked for you.
Yeah. So for my intuition, it's something that I think I didn't realize has always been so strong, because I, growing up, learned to deny it and push it away, because I was always sensitive. But coming into this journey, I've realized that my intuition is normally pretty dead on, and it's normally this gut feeling of just knowing. It's just, I just know it and I'm comfortable with it, or I'm not. And so from there, that's how I lead each day or each reading, is just following what my gut says is right or wrong. And that's so far led me, greatly, and where I want to go and who I want to connect with and how I want to do readings. So I've really learned to tap into that gut feeling of what I really feel physically, clairsentiently in my gut is right.
Just left us. Ashley just popped off. She'll come back in. So yeah, and that was when my question, I guess, of having that. It just seems like you have a lot of trust. It seems like you have a lot of discernment and a lot of built trust, just innate trust with your intuition and your connection. And I think as mediums too, most people tapping into that or connecting, it feels like some, right, will have this sense of second guessing or where did this come from? But it sounds like you just had this light switch and you just went full fledged and knew. And I think that's I think that's rare for sure. I think that's a great thing to have. Just sharing on my experience was I was like media my whole life, but I had no idea what it was. Like just totally like wing, like just my mind was like, what is this? But I'm still experiencing it. What is this? I'm still experiencing it, like that cycle. So never like a light switch never went on for me until later on in my life. So that's why I'm like, that's amazing for you because I feel like it was like probably I was like 20, maybe 28, 30 from my whole life. So I think everyone's journey, it's so unique. And my discernment from lack of trust led me harder through the discernment of trust. So that's why I'm like, when you have that link, and when that's why I mentor is because when you have that first link, when you have that connection, it's so important to be able to anchor into trust so quickly in the beginning stages. Otherwise, you go back and forth mental, go back and forth emotionally,
Yeah.
especially being clairsentient, sensitive, and having that empathy is huge too, because it can weigh us down and it can kind of ping pong us back and forth. But when you have that strong foundation of trust, that strong foundation of sovereignty, it's really, it's like your backbone. So I envy that. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Ashley,
I'm back. So
hi.
sorry.
Okay.
My power flickered.
That's okay. Well, your name's normal now. So welcome. You're back. It's you. Did you want to ask any questions for her that you were thinking?
Um, I wanted to ask you, how did you overcome your fear of being seen? Because that's something I struggle with a lot as going into those skills and like showing them to people, especially like my family's very conservative and it's not something you do. So how did you overcome that?
Yeah. I think there's a couple parts to that. So, first of all, being seen outside, like with life coaching. So there's a part of the aspect of like being on TikTok, making YouTube videos. So there's a part of me that's been used to being seen in videos. Family wise, mediumship wise, um, that was a lot more difficult because, like I said, my husband wasn't supportive at first. When I started doing the evidential course, which was one of the reasons my intuition was strong too, because not only did I have that wake up call, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, that was undeniable, but then my mentor who taught me how to make the link kind of was like, kind of threw you in and made you do it. So it was like, I got to trust it or not. But as I was doing that and bringing through evidence and connecting in the group and realizing, proving to myself, like, wow, I can do this. This is real. And I'm doing it. My husband started to believe more and more too. And then I would go over every reading. I mean, I was meticulous. Like I still am. I'll write down everything I get, everything that like lands, how it is, like how I interpret it. So I think just proving it to myself that I was doing it, and then to my husband, and I started branching out in baby steps. It was like, okay, I'll tell my cousin, she's supportive. Told my best friend, she was supportive. And so it kind of did that to the point where I'm like, okay, my core people are supporting me. And now I'm just going to come out like on Instagram, wherever publicly. And if those people don't align, they don't align, and they weren't meant for me, but I can't like hide myself anymore and keep myself in a box. So it was kind of baby steps till I was ready to like, okay, this is me, accept me or not. And I think that was just growing confidence in the fact that I was doing it.
Did you
That's
ever have a fear of being seen when you first doing just like the life coaching?
Yeah, I mean, naturally I'm an introvert, so I think anytime I have to do anything, there's always like a fear. I get anxious. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, same problem.
I understand. I think we all understand, but I
Yeah,
totally can relate. So I can relate to what you're saying as far as being seen and having that like sense of no more. I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to show, being something that might be judged or let go of that fear of worry because it's very similar for most that are listening and that know me and Ashley. My husband, same, was not a believer, totally had no clue until he started obviously picking up more and more and seeing more. And then it's like, okay, this shit's not made up. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then my daughter, and my daughter was even more proof. So with her experiences and stuff, so that it's like you don't even need to fix anything, right? It just happens around you. People start seeing it, and then you just kind of align into this different frequency too. Well, it's just kind of, even though you don't have to prove yourself, it's happens already. It just shows around you naturally. So
yeah. Yeah, and I think growing up and throughout my life until, into my 30s until this awakening happened, I'd always felt this deep sense of like something's missing. There should be more. And I could never quite understand it. And it drove me crazy. I'm a mom, I have my kids, I love that. But at the same time, there was just like this part of like, I love my life coaching, I love my clients, but something's missing. So I think when I had that deep awakening, it was kind of like the aha moment of like,
Mhm.
oh, this is maybe what I've been sensing is like not, in my life right now. This was what was missing. So
So do you do, for everyone listening, do you do with your spiritual coaching like some type of grief coaching and mediumship, or are you combining that, or are you doing it two separate? I'd be curious of your business if you wanted to share.
yeah, so they're more separate, find them at the same place, same website, but mediumship readings are their own entity. And then the life coaching, spiritual coaching, those I'm certified for life coaching and I do like spiritual life coaching. So if people want to learn more about spirituality and the ins and outs, that is one aspect. And underneath that, what I'm more focused on, the emphasis that I've just naturally gone to is the relationship coaching, the attachment styles. And that's just from my own personal experience and clients. So that would be like under one umbrella, whatever people want to work with, kind of like that life coaching or the mediumship reading. So that's kind of how I separate
Yeah,
them.
absolutely. So leading, of course, by your experience and what resonates, of course. I know that. So is there any shared experiences or any experience that you would like to share that are like those moments of kind of that stuck with you in your readings, mediumship, or vice any other? Because I feel like everyone loves to hear stuff like that. And
Yeah.
there, I'm sure there's some that you will just be like wowed over and that, stick.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, mediumship readings to me are so beautiful and what they bring to the sitter, the client, as well as like for me. I mean, there's healing involved. So there's been times that I've connected with somebody's like departed husband, and he has shown me a visual of laying like next to his wife, who's still alive, and laying there on the bed and just kind of stroking her face, like her hair out of her face. And then when I tell her that, I'm like, this is what he's showing me. And she's like, oh my gosh, I've never told anybody this. Like, I thought people would think I'm crazy, but I feel that all the time. So, like, beautiful moments like that, of like confirmation of not just like, you know, this existence after death, but also like still feeling him, still being around, and like that being so like near and dear to her. Other times, like similar to that, just seeing like grandparents holding their grandchild's like shoulders and supporting them. So a lot of things that come through I feel are really, I guess, impactful is the proof that they're still around and supporting you and
Present.
around you. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I've had some cool experiences too, because one thing I like to try to set the intention to get is like, those key nuggets of proof that they're still in your life, whether that's them watching you, make a certain dinner or play a video game. Is so that's my intention. Show me some evidence that you've been in their life recently, last couple of days. Like this is like, that's what I hope to always get. It's up to the spirit what comes through and not. But one time during a reading, I had had this wild dream before, and I knew it was for the upcoming reading. And during the dream, it was showing me my computer, but the keys of the computer were like missing. And so I kind of got pulled out of this like dream, and I knew it was for the next reading that day. So I asked the sitter, I was like, okay, are you missing your keys? Because like I had this dream, like missing keys. And she was like, oh my gosh, yes, I am missing my keys. I was just searching for them and I found them on my computer. So sometimes like cool bits of stuff will come through like that.
I
Yeah,
love
those are some of my favorite ones. Yeah.
I love that too because that's giving you, so would you say that you're clairvoyant too because you're seeing, right?
Yeah. A lot of it's clairvoyant. I feel like a lot of it's clairvoyant, and then the clairsentient and like the just the knowing too comes through.
Mhm.
Those are kind of combined.
Yeah, and I think that was something too with being in that link with spirit is having to decipher those messages and saying it without judgment because it'll make sense to that sitter. I think that was something I think in the beginning for most mediums, including myself, where it's like, I'm going to sound crazy and this makes no sense, but we're going to figure this out together, right? I learned to just be like, we're going to say exactly what you just said about the keys. And that could have meant multiple different things, but it came out exactly how it needed to. And I think for mediumship, most people think that it's so crystal clear and you have the snap, but it's not. You have this deciphering and this decision making and feeling all of it in one. And I think it's always just like a reassurance to just be like, this is what we're saying, right? And exactly how you did it. It's amazing. I love hearing how people decipher their messages too, because what I would hear would be different from what you would say, or, vice versa, where it might all be different, but at the end it means the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah. I
think,
mean, go ahead.
sorry. Okay. I think it shows how, like, especially when you're starting to do mediumship, how you just need to trust every single thing you get. Like, I read both people and past animals, and I got one cat. The first thing he said was baloney. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And I told the person, like, oh, he steals baloney from us, or he used to steal baloney from us all the time. And then there was another lady I was reading for her, and her, I guess, stepdaughter had passed. But I just got this overwhelming feeling of like, I want to brush her hair. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling this, but I want to brush her hair. And then she's like, I got her ready in her coffin, on the day, and I was brushing her hair. And I was like, that's so sweet. Like,
Yes.
at moments, like, it touches both the reader and the person. So I think
Yeah.
it's healing for both of us.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. And so what you were saying, Erica and Ashley, like the brushing the hair and the interpreting sometimes, or like the pictures and mediumship not just being like they're whispering in our ear the exact message, which would be nice, but it's not that easy. I've had a time too where I saw like raking somebody's grave, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't think they were actually tending to the grave with a rake, but it was like this symbol of like they same thing would brush their hair. So sometimes it does come in differently, but that was through the practice sessions where I did a lot of, practice sitting readings, and so I could learn how I was interpreting things, or learn how things were coming through for me, through those sessions that were practice.
Yeah,
But
because it
yeah.
is very unique for each person. Because, like, they'll show you something and it's not technically directly related to that person, but you have to learn what they're communicating with that specific symbol. And then they start to like use it over and over for readings. You're like, okay, so that.
Yes. Yeah, like two blue birds. I would get that at first, and I wasn't sure, but I've learned that that's a close relationship. That's love. Like, that's it. And then sometimes it'll come through and it will not be that, but I will like know that on some level. Like this is like really literal. This isn't, symbolic. So yeah, even when you know a symbol, sometimes it doesn't always come through that way.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, so when you were younger, did you ever feel connected to your clairs, or did you not really get connected to them until you had that spiritual awakening?
So I didn't have any experiences or feel connected to my clairs until the spiritual awakening. The caveat of that is I have always been extremely sensitive. Um, that was not completely accepted in my family. It was definitely criticized. It's something I really pushed down. I honestly don't remember that much of my childhood. There was a lot of trauma, a lot of things that happened. So even to this day, when I've been asked, like, did you have anything spiritual happen when you were young? Like, I don't think so. Not that I remember, but a lot of it I don't remember. So I really didn't get in touch with my clairs on a deep level until the awakening, besides just always kind of having that gut instinct, I guess. But I really turned it off and dumbed it down because I wanted to fit in and not be so sensitive.
Yeah, and I've started to see a pattern where people who are very gifted with like being able to do mediumship have a past of being suppressed very hard when they were younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I talk a lot about that recently too, just in general, being in that state, suppressed. I mean, I lived dissociated my whole life pretty much until I was probably 25, 8, roughly. So I think the dissociation from that, once you integrate and slowly work through it and get more and more in depth of it, and incorporate that, you start to realize those moments that you did have were actually moments that were real and that weren't made up. And I think imagination is one of them. I was like I just escaped imagination. I think as mediums too, imagination is so important, making sure that you're still in that space because it's vital with understanding and receiving your discernment, your messages and deciphering. So I think the more and more that I would realize that dissociating situations or in general when someone is living in a state of dissociating and coming back into the present of like, wow, things actually could have occurred in my past and integrating it, you start to pick up the links and see. And that's why I asked you too in the beginning of like when it started or how because I feel that everyone is born with intuitive abilities, whether you are a medium at birth or not. It's just, were you suppressed? Was it shut down? Was it locked away multiple lifetimes? How long? There's all that to go in that to kind of piggyback on that. And so I know that deep down there was for you and
Yeah.
I think for most of us, but and especially when you're like, I'm an empath, clairsentient, I'm like, oh, definitely. You might have just not been aware, and that's okay. Obviously, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I think we all experience that at some point, and the most important thing is bringing awareness into your present moment and being your best version. And I think that's exactly where you're at and what you're doing. And I just love that you're so determined to kind of be in that space, even though it's unknown for you,
Hmm.
right? Or was unknown for you, not anymore. But I know that your journey has just begun for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if it's to my detriment or to my benefit, but I would say in this case, to my benefit, I've always been determined when I set my mind to something. And so when this was awakened in me, it was like, okay, this feels so right. I'm not going to deny it. I'm going to do everything I can, even if I feel uncomfortable, if I look awkward, if people judge me. So that's always kind of been my mindset, a bit of black and white. So even with life coaching and YouTube, it was like I remember making my first videos. I couldn't watch them. I didn't tell my husband for a long time because I felt like I was going to look awkward, but eventually it worked out. But yeah, I'm definitely like set into this new path and I love it. But yeah, it is still unknowns. I mean, each reading, everything's unknown. You never know how it's gonna, the dynamic, the energy, the spirit, the sitter. So every time you show up, it feels like you're jumping off a cliff in a way, but we
Mm.
keep showing up.
Yeah. Especially your why, your reason. And I feel you've already answered that, but maybe if there's anything else you would add of like, I always want to know people's reason why, or their of like who they are now and why they carry what intention. I know that you've mentioned it, but if there's anything else that I'm missing for your reasoning, I think that's going back to it every time you go into a reading or you go into this space, and it's like that excitement, but also like the intention of really like your soul driven why, if that
Yeah.
makes.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. One is healing for me when I do the readings, when I'm in alignment. And that comes from like, my dark nights of the soul, my chronic issues, pain, traumas. And then on the flip side of that, that would be the connection that I make when I'm in a reading with the sitter, holding. There's something so like therapeutic and deep in me that wants to hold the space for people that maybe I didn't have through my years, where it's a sacred space that I can be there for them, validate them, bring through validating evidence for them, and hold the space where they can grieve and connect to their loved ones. There's this connection. And for them, it's mainly for, connection to their departed loved ones. But there's also this form of connection for me to bring this triangle of all three of us together and hold this space. So I feel one of my biggest whys is to help people I feel like mediumship is healing. It's healing them, but it's also healing me. And it's this really beautiful sacred experience. So that's like one half of it. And then the other half is, coming into alignment with myself through everything I've gone through and all my struggles and being able to be in alignment and feel healthier and feel happier and feel more love and more open and just in alignment with me.
I want to ask you about your Dark Night of the Soul because I'm very into shadow work. I'm building a course about shadow work and all that stuff. And so I'm always very interested, like, how did you get through like the darkest valleys? What did that look like for you if you want to share that?
Yeah. So I had multiple, I'm sure as many people like dark nights of the soul. From the age that I can remember, like 6, I've had chronic health conditions, pain conditions. Part of this is, I think, not understanding the energetics of me being sensitive. And so, through traumas like dynamics in my family that caused trauma, through um, sexual trauma, through medical trauma, because I did have so many chronic issues. I've had so many surgeries. I've gone to Stanford for 3 different chronic issues and surgeries just from 6 up until, even now I'm slightly healing like a heart issue. So I've always just had these deep chronic issues. And during one experience, I was even put under anesthesia incorrectly where I was awake during the surgery, which was extremely traumatic. So I think a lot of the medical traumas, the medical issues, seems like a lot of physical stuff that's been like my dark nights of the soul, where I'm laying on the floor crying in pain, like, why me? Why am I going through this? Like all of my 20s in pain and surgeries, a lot of my 30s dealing with issues. So I feel like the things that's got me through is a lot of times my kids, because my kids are there. So wanting to be the best for them, like wanting to be healthy, wanting to feel better, there's that aspect to it. And I think just underneath that, like, I don't know, just that determination that like I'm gonna beat this in a sense. There's always that determination, like it's got to be better. There's got to be a reason, like why. So I think I just couldn't stop because I'm just determined and I wanted to be there for them. And coming into my alignment with spirituality and mediumship, that's what's really shown me like, oh, I didn't have any boundaries. Like I was wide open, or I suppressed my voice. I suppressed who I was because I wanted to fit in and make other people comfortable. And so coming into alignment with what's right for me, what feels right, has helped me open up and like shed some of those issues, those
Mhm.
pains.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you felt like your health got better once you opened into spirituality, because I'm also very into like psychology, like somatics, like trauma stored in the body. So you know, when you have these experiences, like even if you're suppressing it in your mind, it's in your body. And until you can find out ways to release that from your body, you're going to continually have these issues. Especially if I think spiritual gifts, like I see women have chronic issues, like we get, what is it, autoimmune diseases, like way more.
Hmm.
And I think it's because of just like generational suppression of women and our voices and our energy.
Yes, 100%. And yes, things have gotten definitely better. I feel like it's been like almost like a whack-a-mole, you could say, from the young age of like one issue and then you changes and you think you heal that one to the next. I've had bilateral hip surgery, I've had a herniated disc, and that is what, to what you were saying with suppression and the mind body, is what kind of started me somewhat with that connection is.
Are you frozen?
I think she's frozen. We were just
Yeah.
having all kinds of issues today.
Yeah.
I was like 28. 28. I
You
found a
froze
book.
for a moment.
Oh,
You froze 20 seconds.
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Okay, where did I phrase that?
I
Uh,
think it was after your bilateral hip, and then you were talking about some.
Okay, so I had a herniated disc in my back, which they saw on MRI, and I was in excruciating pain. Like I just had my second child and I couldn't even hold him. And I was looking at spinal surgery after all this hip stuff. And I found a book on mind body pain, on repressed emotions by Dr. John Sarno. And I read this book and it was very much about our mindset and repressed emotions. And by chapter 4, I was like 50% pain free. And so this kind of opened me up to that connection of like, wow, we really do store these emotions. But so that book did get rid of my back pain, still have the herniated disc, but like that helped me. But that did lead me down the road of somatics and one condition to the next and all the therapies. And so opening up spiritually, I feel like that's really helped me see what needs to fall away, which has helped me feel better. So there's still a little bit of lingering heart issues I have, but I feel like I'm removing heart walls and I'm getting more and more in alignment, and that is getting better and better.
Do you practice It sounds like you do, but do you practice in daily practices of energy healings? I'm assuming you do energetics. I know that you're a spiritual coach. I know that you're a medium healer. Do you incorporate for yourself now that you've been on this journey since you've been reading all those books? I'm sure that you do. I'm just curious of what do you incorporate with your for yourself or your clients with that?
Yeah. So I do a couple different things. One being an energy practice of healing that I learned to do for myself, and I'm going to continue on to learn to do for others, called a high. So I do that personally for me, and I do a motion code that we can release trapped emotions. So I've been working on that, as well as like, meditation and journaling and just like the awareness parts. And I do a lot of somatic exercises. I think that's one thing that's really beneficial for me. Release, like having releases and just even just releasing stress and stuff too.
I love that. Thank you for sharing all that. That's,
Yeah, of
yeah.
course.
There was a couple questions that I was going to ask. I know that you mentioned your connection with your guides, and you mentioned that in the beginning, and I was curious if you wanted to tap into that because I'm obviously like, what signs do you experience, or what connections do they show you if you have synchronicities, and what type of guides? I know that you said you connected with your ancestors and loved ones, but is there any other energies that you kind of have a connection, a deeper connection with, or synchronicities? Because we love to hear synchronicities
Yes.
or anything in that realm.
Yeah. So I feel like there's three. I don't know all my guides. I feel like there's three on my team. And when I tap in and talk to them, there always seems like there's three, but there's one in particular that I like communicate with the most. And I call him Odyssey. I kept trying, as we do want to know their names, and I kept seeing this name over and over. And so that was the confirmation. But so I work with him a lot and a lot with my mediumship. But for signs and symbols and synchronicities, a lot of times it's like, angel numbers are constant. Bunnies are one that's I see like a lot when I know or I'm asking for a sign. A lot of times birds, like big hawks, I will see will just be in the most random spots, like just sitting on my car when I get there. So a lot of animal signs, I feel like I'm really I love nature and I'm tapped into that. Um, that's normally how like the signs come through when I'm just asking for a sign for something, but I work with him the most when I'm in meditation or need answers or, help with readings or anything.
I love that. So, Ashley, is there anything else you wanted to ask her? I'm going to ask another question. I want to give you a chance.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, if you could offer one spiritual advice, a piece of advice from your to your younger self, what would that be?
I think I would tell myself to trust my gut. I think that would be the one thing. I always knew it, I guess, in a sense, and just denied it. So I think the spiritual advice would just be trusting my gut because that I think would have led me down a completely different path if I wouldn't have shut that off or denied it.
Yeah, that's powerful. I feel like too, do you think your like having children, do you think that helped trust, build the trust after for your within yourself? Or are you speaking this is way, way, way younger?
I mean, yes, I do feel like children have helped me be more grounded and have more confidence, but I was speaking like really young, just even in my elementary years, just learning to trust myself because I think I just really didn't, and I leaned on everybody else, like, what should I do? And I feel like that's led me down one path, and now I'm kind of making a left turn back to maybe who I'm more aligned with. But I feel like at the beginning, if I would have trusted those instincts and trusted my gut more, I probably would have come into this like a lot sooner. Maybe not. Maybe it's written in my earth school that I had to go this way, but I wish I could have told myself, to trust myself more, to be more open, not close things off.
Yeah, definitely solar plexus energy coming up, your power, your call, because that's where we create our boundaries, right? And for the longest time, too, not understanding that our boundaries with spirit are just as important as its boundaries with real live human people. And I feel like I had more boundaries with spirit better than I did with boundaries of human life. And
Yes,
so I'd be like, I don't trust these people. I trust them. I don't trust these people.
100%.
It's
I
like
mean,
so true.
it's so true. Spirit has taught me so much about boundaries, which has been a blessing because as a lot of us, I feel like I've struggled with boundaries so much, especially with family and it's so hard, but I feel like spirit has really helped to like give me the confidence of like, no, you know this isn't right. You know this shouldn't be happening. Like you know there should be a boundary here. And I think that's one of the blessings for me personally that's come out of it is just learning really to trust that intuition and put up those boundaries and protect my energy and protect my health.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for being here and
my
being
pleasure.
vulnerable. And where can we find you if you want? I will leave it in the show notes, but if you wanted to just give a little info on where the listeners can find you.
Yes, thank you. My website you can check out. It is mediumjaclyn.com. And then Instagram will be my name. It's going to be Jaclyn.desilva. And then for TikTok, it will also be Medium Jaclyn.
Great. Thank you so much. And
Thank
we
you.
enjoyed chatting with you and hearing your story.